It was a rainy Tuesday morning in London. James Carter, a hard-working marketing executive in his late 20s, rushed into the glass tower where he'd worked for the past 5 years. He wasn't rich, but he was respected, a man who believed in loyalty both at work and in love. Waiting at his desk, as always, was a small paper cup of coffee with a smiley face drawn on the lid. It was from Anna, his girlfriend of 3 years, who also worked in the same company. She was the office's bright star, confident, stunning, and always surrounded by compliments. James trusted her completely. They had plans to marry next year, but in the back of his mind he had started noticing something strange. Anna had been spending more and more time with Daniel, the company's charming new regional director. Daniel was older, confident, and most importantly, very, very rich. One morning, James came early to work. From a distance, he saw them in the executive meeting room, laughing over champagne. At 8:30 a.m., he told himself it's just work, but then came the day that would change his life. Daniel called James into his office. "James," he said smoothly, "we're restructuring. Your position will be redundant. You have 2 weeks." James felt like the ground had been ripped from under him, and as he walked out, he caught sight of Anna, standing by Daniel's side. She didn't even look at him. That was the moment James knew. He hadn't just lost his job. He'd lost the woman he loved. To his boss. 2 weeks later, James stood outside the glass building for the last time. A cardboard box in his hands, his entire career reduced to a pile of folders, a desk plant, and a few pens. The rain poured down again, as if London itself was crying for him, and didn't even say goodbye. She had moved her things to the executive floor, closer to Daniel's office. James heard whispers that she was now Daniel's personal assistant, a role that came with private dinners, expensive gifts, and weekend trips abroad. For weeks, James drifted through life. His savings were running out. He applied to dozens of jobs, but the industry was small, and Daniel's influence was big. No one would hire him. One night, James sat in his tiny apartment, staring at an old photo of him and Anna laughing in Paris. How did I go from that to this? But something inside him shifted. He decided that night that he would not be broken. He would rebuild his life, not to win Anna back, but to show her and the entire world what she had thrown away. James sold his car, invested what little money he had into a small freelance marketing gig for a startup in Barcelona, and started working day and night. He barely slept, he barely ate, but for the first time in weeks, he had hope. Little did he know, this was the first step toward becoming a man Daniel and Anna would regret betraying. Months passed. James worked for the Barcelona startup as if his life depended on it, because it did. His innovative marketing campaigns caught attention across Europe. Sales tripled. Investors poured in money. One night, the CEO called him. "James, we want you to lead our entire European division." It felt unreal. Less than a year ago, he had been unemployed, heartbroken, and humiliated. Now he was boarding first-class flights to Paris, Milan, and Zurich, meeting CEOs and signing million-euro deals. He started dressing differently, tailored suits, luxury watches, not to impress Anna, but because he finally felt worthy of respect again. By the second year, James owned shares in the company. His net worth crossed 7 figures. He bought a penthouse overlooking the River Thames, right in the same city where Daniel and Anna still lived. One evening, at a high-profile business gala, James was introduced to a group of executives. Among them, Daniel. And right next to him in a glittering dress was Anna. Her smile froze the moment she saw James. He wasn't the same man she left. He was more confident, more powerful, and far more successful than Daniel, and this was just the beginning. The gala buzzed with laughter and the clinking of champagne glasses. James could feel Anna's eyes on him, scanning the expensive cut of his suit. The way other executives leaned in when he spoke, Daniel approached with a smug smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Well, James," he said, "looks like you've landed on your feet." James simply smiled. "Some falls teach you how to fly." The words hung in the air, sharper than any insult. Over the next weeks, Fate handed James the perfect opportunity. Daniel's company, the very one that had fired him, was struggling to secure a major European marketing contract. The only problem for them? The Barcelona startup James now partly owned was one of the biggest competitors for that contract. When the bidding process began, James made his move. His team's pitch was flawless, creative, data-driven, and impossible to beat. He didn't just want to win the contract. He wanted to make it impossible for Daniel to recover. 2 weeks later, the results came in. James's company won the deal, and Daniel's firm lost millions. The news spread fast. Daniel's reputation took a hit. Investors started pulling out, and Anna, she stayed silent. James knew she would reach out eventually. He just didn't know how soon it happened on a cold winter evening. James was in his penthouse reviewing a new contract when his phone buzzed. Anna, can we meet, please? It's important. For a moment, James just stared at the screen. Then, with a faint smile, he replied, tomorrow, 7 p.m. at the Savoy. The next night, Anna walked into the luxury hotel lounge. She looked different, tired, a little older, her sparkle dimmed. I made a mistake, James, she said softly. Daniel, he's not the man I thought he was. He's broke, and we're over. She reached across the table, her eyes wet. We had something real. I was wrong to leave you. James let her speak. Every word was like a replay of his darkest days, but now it didn't hurt. It only confirmed how far he had come. When she finished, he leaned in slightly. You're right, Anna, we did have something real. Before you traded it for champagne and business-class tickets. He stood, buttoning his jacket. I wish you well, but I'm not your second chance. As he walked out, Anna's eyes followed him, but this time there was no power in her gaze. Outside, the city lights reflected off the Thames. James took a deep breath of the crisp winter air. He hadn't just won in business. He had won in life, and somewhere in the city, Daniel and Anna were learning the same lesson. Money can buy many things, but it can't buy back the person you betrayed.